Newark, New Jersey might seem like an unlikely place for urban farming to thrive. But just across the Hudson River from Columbia, new efforts to grow food right in the center of a dense urban area are beginning to take root. Last year, a capstone project brought together the city of Newark and a team of SIPA students, advised by Ivan Gonzalez, to take a look at how these small-scale farms and gardens might fit into the city's future as a source of food, employment, and urban renewal.
My name is Chris Santulli. I graduated from SIPA in January of 2012, and I was an MPA candidate with the concentration in urban and social policy. I wanted to work with an economic development agency in a sort of not incredibly economically vibrant city. And initially, the idea was to work with the Newark Department of Economic and Housing Development.
The Office of Economic Development in the Office of the Mayor wants to create economic opportunity for the citizens of Newark. So they have a division that actually spends time and resources thinking about and connecting with the community, trying to figure out entrepreneurial ways to bring in businesses, create employment. It's sort of business with a social and sustainability aspect to it. They want to develop that kind of business in the city of Newark.
Newark has a lot of lots, a lot of empty, kind of dead city-owned lots, or condemned lots that are essentially city-owned. There are a number of nonprofits in and around Newark, in sort of Orange and East Orange, and in Newark, that do. Some of them do hydroponic greenhouses. Hydroponic farming is just it's essentially farming without soil, and there's a couple different methods to do it, but basically the young plants, sort of seedlings, sit in sort of foam cups, and then once they've grown a little bit, they're transferred into basically they look like rain gutters with a cap on it and a bunch of holes over it, and there's a constant flow of nutrients and water over the roots of the plants, and it allows you to grow very quickly, grow very big, and it just generally speeds up the process and leads to more yield.
A new aspect of this one was that they wanted to, as an angle to fulfilling the social mission, they wanted to engage with anchor institutions in the community, with schools, so maybe provide greens to schools, with hospitals, maybe provide greens to hospitals. So large institutions that would be reliable clients who would buy all your stuff.
They're mostly growing leafy greens for the most part. So you name it, 90 types of lettuces that are fancy, and some kale, some other stuff, but mostly leafy green spinach. It's an interesting thing to see in a kind of maybe not a beat up neighborhood, but in a you don't expect to see a greenhouse just sort of pop up in the middle of the city that's got just a whole bunch of lettuce growing.
The challenge for our students was coming up with a business plan that would be a feasible business plan. It's pretty easy to put an idea to paper and stuff, but once you start getting into the economic model, how exactly are we going to do this, right? What are the revenue sources? What are the costs? Are we ever going to make a profit, right?
We did a demand and market analysis, and there can be a demand for it. It just has to be tailored appropriately, from sort of small boutique restaurants in New York City to something like the Newark school system, or hospitals, or universities. Columbia University Dining Services buys from tons of local vendors, a lot of local food. I think it was really interesting just to learn a lot more about the possibilities for urban agriculture.
I just think the application of the background that SIPA students are getting in the MPA and the MIA as an application of that background to a business problem and a social and policy problem, I think this kind of framework works very well. The kind of questions and the kind of challenges that you come up with against, the kind of obstacles, the kind of trade-offs you have to make, and you have to realize that when you're making policy, right? One thing is to sort of think about it and write it up. Another thing is, okay, how do I actually apply it, and what are the actual impacts, right? What does it mean if I invest my resources here, and how much can I get out of that investment? In terms of benefit to the community or whatever else you're trying to accomplish with the policy. So for me, it's been a great experience. I think the students have enjoyed it.